Daf Yud Beis. We're in the middle of Lo Yikareu Shimcha Avram. Why Hashem changed Avram's name from Avram to Avram. Why he added the letter Hey. So we're on page Yud Beis, folio 12, and the second column. Uve'emet, in the middle of the second full paragraph. Uve'emet k'tiv yagia kapecha ki tochel. This is one of the most important teachings, that the purpose of a person in the world is to work. What does it mean to work? Al yedei lametet melachot. The essence of what it means to fix the world is through the 39 forms of toil that are forbidden on Shabbos, but there were also the 39 forms of toil that went into making the Mishkan and operating it. Making the temple and operating the temple. So those the person has to engage in during the middle of the week. דהיינו שעל ידי המעשה ממשיך הוויה חדשה והתהוות דבר חדש להיות המחדש ובטובו מעשה וראשית דווקא. וזהו אשר ברא אלוקים לעשות. So when we talk about rectification, first and foremost, it's the physical acts that a person does in keeping the world working. So obviously we completely take it out of its context and we begin to talk about how it really is talking about spiritual development and so on and so forth. But in the temple, this is one of the big chidushim. In the temple, they didn't talk about spiritual development. They made, they formed, they worked. Artisans worked on building the temple. And when they operated it, they weren't thinking about spiritual things necessarily. There were the actions that had to be done every day, and all these actions were very physical toil. So he's saying that that's what it means for a person to be fixing the world.
Plus there were different people.
What do you mean, different people?
Building.
Okay, everybody was involved. Everybody was involved in these 39 forms of labor. And he says that's what it means that Hashem created everything to be completed, to be done. So we're in the middle of explaining this mashal that the Medrash gave. That these forms of legume, they need to be cooked in order to change, to transform their bitter taste into something that's edible, that's sweet. And that's what it means that a person who toiled during the weekdays leading up to Shabbos, he's the one who eats on Shabbos. And then on Shabbos, yitaleh kol bibchinat Shabbat. The fact that you're preparing it all for Shabbat, that elevates all your toil during the middle of the week. Ki Shabbat menucha, bibchinat bitul.
Talking about learning now, right?
So that's the thing, that he's talking here about physical labor.
Physical labor.
The fact that the person labors physically in order to reach Shabbos and be able to rest, so it means that everything that he's doing, he's doing for Shabbos. He's doing everything to elevate it.
But I learned that that's exactly the same for learning.
Seder. It's not one of the 39 forms of toil.
Right.
So it's hard to say about that it's lasot. That that's what it means that God created in order to do. It's like we want the physical toil. We want the physical labor. A long time ago, they paid me in somebody wanted a series of classes on the 39 forms of labor to convince people that they have to work. It was in Hevel Menachem. I had a huge crowd.
Yeah?
Yeah, me, myself, and I.
Okay.
The importance of working according to Torah.
No,
the importance of physical labor according to Torah. Physical labor? What are you talking about?
It's to bring a Havaya Chadash.
Okay. That's how you bring Hashem into the world. This is incredible. That you even have to say it is incredible.
Right.
Because it's been so transformed as if to work is some kind of sin. It's some kind of something that you're not allowed to do. What are you talking about? That's it. We'll see in a moment that there's more depth to it, but the pshat of it is, of course, that through physical labor, a person fulfills his purpose in the world. That's how he fixes the world.
We told that in Bereshit.
One of the reasons why people who work with computers, programmers and systems people, whatever, they want it to be Asr on Shabbos. If it's Shabbos,
24/7.
then forbidden on Shabbos to work with a computer, then what does that mean about the week? Nothing. How do you know that you're doing something worthwhile? That the rest of the week it's forbidden.
Shabbos.
That on Shabbos it's forbidden.
Chazon Ish worked very hard.
When?
They worked very hard to make electricity
Yeah,
problematic.
and not just the Rabbanan, not just Divrei Sofrim. We made it the Oraisa. Incredible. So this is food for thought. What's going on here? And he says the highest level is Chulin Shenasu al Tarat HaKodesh. What does it mean that they were done on the basis of Kedusha, on Kodesh, that they have some intent that they're made for Shabbos, that's what I'm doing it for. So this is what Hashem created the world for. Ki Shabbat hi menucha b'chinat bitul. Shabbos adds bitul, it adds a nullification in everything that you do. Kmo Shmoneh Esrei. Just like in Shmoneh Esrei, when you bow down, that's the ultimate form of nullification. V'yifshar liot kulo Shabbat. A person can't be in Shabbos all the time. Kmo kulo Shmoneh Esrei, like all davening can't just be Shmoneh Esrei. Ak tchila liot yemei chol. First, there has to be the physical toil of the days of the week. So that's the simple meaning. Obviously, once the world has changed, and very few people do actual physical labor, right? Right now, I don't know what the percentage is. It's got to be very low already. It's probably not. It used to be 100%. I'm sure it's around now. And Jews especially, I don't know how many engage in physical labor. So then you get into this whole thing that you have to explain that the physical labor then is like categories of work. It's a more abstract category. It's a big chap. You have to make a big leap of faith to believe that they're the same thing exactly. Like in terms of how we see it today. So to go back to that, very hard to imagine.
It's going to require a reset.
So that's why a lot of people imagine that Yiddishkeit wants to go backwards in time, which is kind of tough. It's hard to grasp. What, we're going to be as abstract as we are today and go back to having to raise cattle in order to bring it to the base of Mikdash to shecht it? It's very hard for most people to wrap their heads around this.
It require a reset of
Complete. Complete. So maybe it'll happen. Maybe it will happen. Maybe we'll come to the decision that now that we have machines that do everything for us, we don't have to do anything. We raise cattle because we want to. Really just for personal consumption. Not as an industry. Because as industry, we don't need it. Because we can make, let's say,
beyond
wait a minute, we still want to work with the animals. Why? Because it's a way of life. For a person to be out on the farm and to be in the field and so on. And we won't have to sow a field full of wheat. We'll just do it because that's how we want to live. Because we have machines that do everything anyway. Everything's cheap anyway. So we have plenty of time on our hands. And then people will learn the pneumius of what it means to till a field. They'll understand the pneumius of what it means to sow the field. They'll learn all of this, and they'll say, I want to manifest this in actual actions. Maybe then people will choose to be like this. If they choose to be like this, maybe that's when it'll come back. Then they'll say, oh, now I understand why if you shecht my favorite who just gave birth to a little goat, or the lamb gave the sheep who gave birth to a lamb, or my cow who gave birth to a calf. Now I understand what it means that I'm giving up my
Kid.
my kid. But it needs to be thought of. In any case, tikkun zeu gam ken b'chinat milah, and this is exactly what man needs to have, in the sense of the circumcision. Why? So when he said that God changed his name, changed Avram's name when he gave him the circumcision, because he added to him something, or he took away rather, like same way when you cook, you take away the bitterness. So when he commanded Avram to circumcise, he took away some of the bitterness, let's call it. Ki ad shelo nimol Avram haya shmo Avram. Until then, his name was Avram. Avu b'chinat reishit hagilui. And the father is always the beginning of revelation of something. Like father is chokhmah, is wisdom. And wisdom, as the Rambam explains even in Moreh Nevuchim, is a sudden spark of insight. So it's the beginning of a revelation. Or chokhmah is usually the yud of Hashem's name, Yud Kei Vav Kei. And it's just a point. So the beginning of all writing is a point. It's always... Okay. So this is all related to Av, to a father, to the wisdom. יש מאין שמקור ההשפעה נקרא שם אב היה בבחינת רם על כל גויים מפני ידי מסך. But this source remained disconnected because it was higher, ram. Okay? It couldn't reach down. It couldn't come down. So Abraham had all the great ideas. He had all the philosophy and all the theology and everything he needed, but there was no way for him to come down. He couldn't come down because there was a masach, there was some kind of separation. ועל ידי המילה נקרא אברהם אב המון גויים, להוסיף התקללות ניצוצות. So once he circumcised, now he could manifest himself below. He could affect people below. He became the father of many nations. So all these sparks that were below could now connect with him. כי להיות הערה בגלוי גמור, עד שיתקרב הניצוץ לקראת And here it says something incredible. He says, usually when we talk about lighting the sparks, the idea is that the spark comes, two options. Either the spark comes closer, it's drawn to the source, or the source goes to the spark. Which one does he use here? He says, עד שיתקרב הניצוץ להיכלל תחת כנפי השכינה. It says the spark has to draw close. And that's one of the biggest mistakes that people make, that you think that you as the source need to go to the spark. He says, no, you have to see that the spark wants to come and be drawn to the holiness. Unless it can do that, it's not ready yet to be redeemed. That's like the sign. That's why we don't go out proselytizing. But once somebody is interested in Torah, I mean, you don't write to people random emails saying, I'm a Jew. We have a great opportunity here. We have, the whole thing will cost you, just for this weekend, $99. It's on sale. You don't do that. Why? Because if the spark until Avram has removed this additional foreskin. כי מילא אותיות mal י"ק חוכמה ובינה. Because mal, first of all, means to separate. And to separate, you have to have chokhmah and bina together, because chokhmah is the beginning of the revelation. But bina already gives you a sense of what belongs and what doesn't belong. How do we see this? Later on, there's an important medrash that Sarah, this appears in Baba Metzia, that Sarah is sitting with Avram's head in her lap, and she's pulling lice out. Yeah. So that's a famous medrash that used to say that Sarah, his wife, she was sensitive to who's ready to come close and who's not. Avram wasn't sensitive, because he's the beginning of revelation, so he wants to reach everybody. But Sarah, she's the Bina. Bina is to be able to distinguish. Lavin ben davar ledavar. To distinguish. Imen Bina in dat, imen dat in Bina. You can't separate things. So she's more aware. That's why she kicks Ishmael out of the house. She says, even though Abraham is your son and you want him to be close, but he's not ready for it. So that's first of all. The milah means literally to cut something. And to do that, you have to have both chokhmah and bina. Umalu gam lashon itgalut. But it also means mal, also means to speak. Lashon lemalela, milah. And the difference is milah with a yud and milah without a yud. Milah with a yud is to cut, is to circumcise, to separate. Milah without a yud is a word, is to speak. Lemalel. Kimal מלשון ממללה, שהדיבור הוא המגלה את החוכמה, להיות החוכמה יוצאת מכוח אל הפועל, ומהיעלם אל הגילוי. And it's speech that allows the wisdom, the yud, Avraham, to come out and to be revealed. ולכן לעתיד לבוא דכתיב ואז יהפוך אל עמים שפה ברורה, כתיב וראו כל בשר יחדיו, כי פי השם דיבר, מחמת שיהיה גילוי בחינת דיבור, התגלות חוכמה. So in the end, you do proselytize, but only after you see that the person is ready to come. So once he's ready to come, you should encourage him. You don't throw him away. There's a medrash, indeed, there is a medrash that says that you're supposed to reject a convert 3 times in the beginning. But it's not halacha. Some people... and he's already ready to, so you should help him. Of course you have to see that he's serious, but even just the fact that he's willing to convert is probably a good sign that he's serious. Of course we have a lot of issues, I don't want to get into them, but in the end you do speak, and when you speak, that's the mal. So here he's really giving us chashmal mal without saying it.
Torah Chavches.
Yeah. In Keter Shem Tov, he's giving us the Baal Shem Tov's 3-stage process of Achna V'Lam Tekah. He says the Achna is the feeling that I'm just Avram. That even though I may have a great source in me, I'm not able to come down. And it's a feeling of submission before Hashem. And for that you need, that's the Achna really in the beginning, before Hashem. And then the second stage is to have Havdalah, is like Sarah, to separate out what's not child, what's not relevant. And then the final stage is to speak, to be able to speak. That's the Chashmal.
So
all this came out with Avram's, the change of his name. It's like before then he wasn't able to speak, and now he can speak. Before then he wasn't able to influence the world because he was not circumcised, and now he's circumcised. Speaking, this is mamish his restatement of the Baal Shem Tov's basic process of submission, separation, and sweeping. Yeah.
So the bittul aspect refers to the fact that he waited to be commanded.
Right. To know that talks about 2. So you can see many times that he has 2 types of itkafia, which are really like, or 2 types of itapcha even sometimes. It depends which chapter you look at. He sort of he puts them together. That you already did itkafia. Avram already did, like in the Alter Rebbe's mind. I think Avram already did most of the itkafia for all of us. And the fact that you were circumcised, it's already a sign that you can speak. All you have to do is just separate out the chaff. Don't speak everything. It's not relevant. Don't speak. So all this is b'bchinat chashmal. This is all related to the secret word, the mysterious word of the chariot, chashmal, which is translated as electrum. And Chazal, the sages say about this word that it represents a certain type of angel, itim chashot, that at times they're silent, dainu shelefamim hu bebchinat elem, meaning they're concealed, and siag lechokhma shtika, and chokhmah, wisdom, is related to being silent, because the way to achieve chokhmah is through silence. V'itim emalelot bebchinat dibur, v'gilui. And at times they speak, and that's to be revealed. And that's what happened to Avram after he's circumcised. V'gam mal milishon, it also means to speak, and it also means to be against. Okay? To be before something. Kilomar, uyoshev mimuli. He's in front of me. He's against me. Really, against in Hebrew means like opposite from me. שהוא פירוש נגדי, כלומר דבר שנראה כאילו הוא לנוכח עיניו. So it's like seeing something in front of you. This is a part of Chashma Amal that's many times not understood. That the first Mal, which is the second stage, is a state of seeing godliness. Meaning you can only separate out the negative part, the remove the foreskin really, if you can see godliness in front of you. If you can't see godliness in front of you, you don't have a sense of what belongs and what doesn't belong. You don't have a sense of why, of what to remove, what to sift through, what to remove. That's why it says that when someone don't let Ishmael stay here. You have to take him out of the household. From that, Chazal say, Hashem said, listen to her, because she's greater than you in prophecy. Why is this a prophecy? It would just be common sense. She sees that he's not good for her son. She says, no, to be able to see what should or should not be done, what is relevant and what should be chastised, what should be moved aside, you have to have a sense of godliness in front of you. If you don't have a sense of godliness in front of you, it's like what does belong will stick to the godliness, and what doesn't will fall to the side. So it's like about every action the person does, if he wants to know whether you should do it or not, is it good or not, is this advancing godliness in the world? He has to have Hashem in front of him and see, does it stick or not? Does it connect? Is it connected to godliness?
So you're saying in order to be able to do tshuva, Hashem needs to be imminent?
It's more than tshuva here. It's a later stage. It's a stage of removing also. It's not just saying I did this and this and that, and that's wrong. It's like now I want to, in my psyche, in myself, I want to remove the parts that are negative. How do I know what's really negative? It's very hard to know exactly what I need to remove from my life. He says I have to see godliness in front of me and see whether it sticks or not. That's called mimuli, in front of me. To see Hashem in front of me. ולמטה באדם התחתון הנה כתיב נעשה אדם בצלמנו כדמותנו. יש גם כן מסך. So since this was in the angels above, so the same is also true about man below, because we said that man was created in God's image. So there's also a masach, there's also a separating curtain, alivara mashpia, specifically on the organ that is able to affect, to have an impact on the world, and the procreative organ. Shehu bebchinat ram. And causes it to be aloof, to be separate.
So what does the word mashpia mean in this context?
Yeah, mashpia.
But what does it mean in this context?
To give substance.
To?
Influence.
Affluence.
Influence.
To influence. הנסתרות להשם ולא חוכמה בינה. So that which is to Hashem, our God, that's Chokhmah and Bina. V'aniglot lanu l'vaneinu. But, so that's the Yud K. We said the Yud K is still the state where you're not influencing. It's only at the last stage that you begin to speak. So the Nistarot, that's that which is hidden, it's only to Hashem. That's where you have to have the concept of Hashem, especially in the middle stage. So that's the Chokhmah and Bina. And Iglot, the revealed, which is to us and our sons. Who are our sons? We have 6 sons and a daughter. Those are the midos, right? The vavke. So shalidei milana send ignot lanu levaneinu. So by removing the foreskin, through what was concealed before in the mind now comes down into the heart, into the emotions. And this is obviously also true when you learn, because when you learn, so you may understand something, you understand it perfectly, but you can't bring it down to affect you. You understand it, but it doesn't change the way that you live. He says, in order to change the way that you live, you have to go through this process of removing the foreskin.
It's the same process we talked about last week.
Yeah?
I think you have the 3 stages of Akodim.
Akudim, Nikudim, Vudim.
I think it's this because
There is a parallel. Anytime there's 3, there's a parallel. Right? Akudim is like
he said about Avram that Avram in the beginning he had a concept, but he was unable to much be. That's reminiscent of Akodim stage.
And then, especially the Nikudim, which is the world of. So in Torah's Chaim, the Rebbe explains that that's the whole process that happens inside the person about what faculties I need to bring out and what I shouldn't. It's like the separation stage. And he actually says that that's Esav. Nam says that's your Esav inside. And your Esav is always coming up with new ideas, and you have to sift through them. You have to decide what belongs and what doesn't belong.
So the bris being in the middle of Hashem's name, as it were, facilitates the unification.
It makes it possible for what's on top to be revealed below.
And that is the exact reason, how we understand the difference between a Molech. Because a Molech accepts okay.
Yeah. But he doesn't want it to come down.
Right.
It's what's called that he knows his creator, but he rebels against him. What's a rebellion? The rebellion is, I don't want you to be known. I don't want other people to know you. I don't want who you are to influence the world, and so on. So it says, כי לכן כאשר נתווסף ה' באברהם, מכל מקום לא נעקר הריש באברהם, שעדיין הוא בחינת רם, אלא שנתווסף בחינת ה' להיות בחינת רם זה בגילוי. So he says, if Hashem really wanted him to be Av Hamon Goyim, the father of a multitude of nations, what should have been his name? Avham. Aleph Bet Hey Mem. It was taken the resh away. Why? Because Hamon doesn't have a resh in it. When you said he's the father of Aram, of just this nation, so there's a resh there. After you change it to be of a multitude of nations, there's no resh, no need for it. So why does the name retain it? Avraham, why do we retain the resh? It says because the resh indicates that he didn't lose his connection above. Because you can have another type of person. A type of person who, when he comes down, that's it. He's stuck in the mediocre, physical, mundane world, and he has nothing, no inspiration from anywhere. So he says, but Avram, he retains them. Meaning, the amazing thing is, it's like saying that if you have a chna, if you have a submission before Hashem, you have to have bittul always. You can't say, oh, I had bittul once, and that was enough to give me the inspiration, and from here on out, I just need to express it. You have to renew the bittul all the time.
That almost sounds agnostic.
What?
That concept. I had it once.
Could be.
It's a continuous process.
V'ineh milah hi gilui. So circumcision causes the revelation. ופרייה היא גילוי עוד יותר, כמו פרת ראש האישה, שחיטה מפורט. So it says, beyond that, there's also another. There's a very thin film that's under the foreskin that's also removed. It's very hard to see it. And because of that, the Arabs, for instance, when they circumcise, they don't remove that. They don't know it's there really, or even if they know it's there, it's not removed. In any case, today they don't do.
Pull it back.
And they don't circumcise today. They let the Jews circumcise them, and on purpose the Jews don't. The Jewish circumcised remove it. You leave it. Because that's the second stage, Priya. What is this?
Do they is that part of their?
As part of their training is
No, not the moil, not the moil. I'm
Yeah.
talking about the Arabs. Is that they're accepted?
I don't know. I don't know if they haven't accepted anything in anything.
Right.
It's not like they have halacha books.
So why do they circumcise?
Because Yishmael was
Because
circumcised.
Yishmael.
But they don't. It doesn't have to be at 8 days, and certainly doesn't need to follow.
They're doing it 2 days.
Even earlier, if they can get the mohel there earlier, or they do it in
They don't wait till 30?
they do it in the hospital.
2 days.
37 or
It
whatever?
used to be that they
2
did it
days.
much older. It used to be in any case they can do it much older. Like there's not unheard of even today that they do it at age 1 or 2. I don't know how much more the child suffers or not, but apparently they don't care. Okay. Masach Mavdil, this Priya and the Milah, both of them are the Masach Mavdil. They're like the curtain that separates the holiness from the profane. The Israel, Chulin shenasu al Tarat HaKodesh. Ikar ha'avdala ki b'shiva avdalot le'avdil tameh leben ha'tahor. So this is in the body. And in general, when we talk about separation, so the Gemara talks about 7